Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome back to another edition of YPN News, bringing you news as it relates to Bible prophecy and, of course, foretold by Israel Hawkins. Today, Jeff, we're going to start off our broadcast with a recap of a story we brought to our viewers earlier concerning the manhunt for ex-police officer Christopher Dorner. The last we reported, authorities suspected he was in and around the Big Bear Lake Resort area. As of Tuesday, February 12th, that manhunt and the standoff that ensued came to a fiery end with hundreds of rounds fired and an intense blaze that consumed the cabin that Mr. Dorner was holed up in. Now take a look at this brief video of the firefight between officers and Dorner. Now, that went on for quite a while. Of course, authorities say once the fire dies out and the firefighters are able to enter, any remains will have to be verified, of course, through forensic testing to determine the identity of that person, see if it was, yes, Christopher Dorner.
Well, a little further east in Nevada, particularly Sin City, and rightly named, on the Vegas Strip, 3 people are dead and 3 injured after a drive-by shooting started a chain of events that led to the deaths and injuries. Now, Las Vegas rapper Kenny Clutch was the target of the drive-by, who was killed as he and a passenger sat in their vehicle at an intersection. Now, occupants of another vehicle pulled beside them and fired multiple shots into Clutch's vehicle.
Kenny Clutch, the driver, as you mentioned, he died. The passenger who was in the car with Kenny Clutch was hit, but he survived. Now, apparently the rapper's vehicle swerved into traffic, hitting several vehicles before crashing into a cab, which then burst into flames and then exploded. Now, both the driver and the passengers in the cab died. Police believe that the incident started as an argument at a nearby casino. Since December, Jeff, this shooting marks the 5th violent incident reported at the popular Las Vegas Strip.
Well, back to the Abilene area, a city not too far from Abilene, Breckenridge, Texas, where a recent investigation involving a sheriff-elect and a female officer was closed. Now, according to reports, Sheriff-elect Billy Wade was apparently tased and then pepper sprayed after assaulting the female officer.
According to the investigation, Wade and the female officer were at a golf course around midnight. While there, an intoxicated Wade attempted to attack Officer Adams and then take her firearm, which in her defense, she tased him. When he tried to put her in his vehicle, she pepper sprayed him. A third officer who was called to the scene by Adams arrived there as the two were in a tussle, and soon after the officer arrived, everything of course calmed down and was over.
Now, one of the big mysteries in this case, which is now closed, is how Officer Adams knew Wade was at the golf course. Now, interestingly enough, Katan, even with the dash cam footage and her testimony, no charges were filed, and as mysteriously as the event began, it's now ended.
Yeah, very interesting. Now, we mentioned in last week's broadcast that the head of the Catholic Church, Pope Benedict XVI, is resigning. However, new information has revealed that his resignation might be due to the exposing of the widespread corruption in the Vatican. Italian media reports say an internal church probe has informed the Roman Catholic leader about a series of blackmails and underground gay sex in the Vatican. 3 cardinals, including the former head of the Vatican Secret Service, were among the suspects in the allegations of fraud.
In an interview with Press TV, Kevin Barrett with the Muslim Jewish Christian Alliance made several interesting comments on the announcement of the Pope's resignation. This is what he said. Well, this is essentially unprecedented. It's been, I believe, 7 centuries since something like this has happened. Now, just hours after the Pope announced his resignation, Mr. Barrett actually published an article pointing out that the Pope did not simply resign because of old age.
He went on to say, popes do not resign, they are fired by God. They normally die in office, so obviously there was something very serious going on causing the Pope to resign. Mr. Barrett then commented on the reports published in the La Repubblica, which is an Italian newspaper, which suggests that it is indeed Vatican corruption that has caused the Pope to resign. He said, the sources close to the Pope said that there was a closeted homosexual ring at a high level in the church, and there was also a tremendous amount of financial corruption going on as well.
Now, the sources also said that the 6th and 7th commandments were being systematically violated at the high levels of the church. Now, to that, Mr. Barrett replied, well, the 6th commandment forbids corrupt sexual acts, and the 7th commandment enjoins theft. Now, Katan, just as an interjection here, keep in mind that the Catholic Church did away with the 4th commandment that deals with keeping the Sabbath day. Right? And they actually split up a different commandment. So what they're actually talking here is the 7th and 8th commandment, even though they're saying 6 and 7. Right. But Mr. Barrett went on to say that this is actually a very common problem in all Western societies, and he's talking about the adultery and the theft, and it's not just the church. We have very, very widespread financial corruption, and indeed it is money that motivates, it isn't religion, he said.
That's very interesting. Mr. Barrett continued, and sexual morality no longer exists in the West, especially at the high levels. And just to give you a couple examples, both Presidents Bush were in the U.S., here in the U.S., were known to be consorting with call boys, that is, underage male prostitutes who spent the night in the White House. The headline from the Washington Times newspaper for Thursday, June 29, 1989 says, homosexual prostitution inquiry ensnares VIPs with Reagan and Bush.
And the subheading was, Call Boys Took Midnight Tour of White House. Now that happened under Bush the Elder in 1989, and again with his son in office after 9/11. And we had Jeff Gannon, a homosexual prostitute, posing as a journalist, spending the night repeatedly with the president in the White House. And this is so systematically covered up by the Western media, but not enough to prevent people from knowing about it.
Lastly, Barrett concluded, so there's all sorts of sexual decadence and blackmail and financial corruption at the highest levels in the West. Now, YPN has looked into what Mr. Barrett mentioned and dug up the June 29, 1989 nightly news report with Tom Brokaw. This is what he reported.
And if Washington doesn't have enough to talk about these days, the Washington Times reported today that unidentified White House aides in the Carter, Reagan, and Bush administrations now are being investigated for using the services of a call boy ring. The paper reports that 2 of the male prostitutes were given a late-night tour of the White House last year. The White House press secretary, Marlin Fitzwater, said he knew nothing of this investigation. NBC's Lisa Myers reports her sources in the U.S. Attorney's Office say the investigation is not focusing on prostitution, but on fraud involving the use of credit cards to pay for the call boy services.
Katan, this is all amazing information that's being uncovered at this present time. But what's even more amazing is the fact that Yisrael Hawkins exposed the secret sodomite religion of the Catholic Church years earlier, before any news reports were ever published. And in fact, at that time, very few people believed what Yisrael Hawkins said was true, but now they're seeing it for themselves, that what he said and the prophecies he showed us were 100% accurate.
Yeah, accurate they are. Now you can find out what other prophecies are soon to be fulfilled by calling or writing the House of Yahweh, and of course requesting your free copy of the Prophetic Word and monthly newsletter. You can do so by writing the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. Or you can call the House of Yahweh at 1-800-613-9494. You can also email them at info@yahweh.com. You can also go to the website at www.yahweh.com. And of course, for all calls outside the United States, please call the number on your screen.
Well, don't go anywhere. Up next is Yeshua Hawkins, bringing you the truth and showing you Bible prophecy. From all of us here at YPN News, I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
And I'm Katan Alexander.
Thanks for watching.